Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective with Reverend Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. You will not believe the guest I have for you today, but I'm going to make you wait because I have to announce something first. Before we get too deep in today's show, I'd like to mention that my professional psychic mediumship certification program begins February 4th. It'll be taught again in August, but the very first one is here in February 4th. I still have a few spaces left, so if it's of interest to you, please let me know. It's a 14-week immersion program to give you a substantive amount of information and practice giving readings and using about every technique available. We'll be doing readings beginning with the body basics and then the left brain tools, and then going on to those that are used in psychic readings. We'll be doing mediumship exercises and introducing you to channeling or helping you deepen your channeling technique. For those of you that are planning a career in psychic mediumship, this course is for you. It includes business tips in addition to a wealth of information about the field. If you're just learning to use your abilities and you'd like a structured program to develop them within, this program is for you too. It's designed for individuals at all levels of practice, and there's more information on my website at mediumtracylockwood.com. Well, I promised to blow your mind with today's guest, and today's guest is a medium. She's a Reiki master. She is a wholeness expert. She is an international media personality. She is known for channeling the cheeky young lad, Eric. She has a bachelor's degree in fine art. She is the author of the book With Love and Light, a true story about an uncommon gift. She is the founder of the Center for Love and Light in Atlanta, Georgia, and co-founder of the nonprofit learning environment, the Love and Light Institute. Her name is Jamie Butler, and I couldn't be more pleased to have you on the show. Welcome, Jamie.
Oh, thank you so much. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, I'm so happy to have you. For those of you that like to snoop around and investigate our guests while they're talking on the show, you can find her information at jamiebutlermedium.com. That's Jamie, Jamie, butlermedium.com. Hey, Jamie.
Hi.
So I'm going to start off with a question that is a rather general one, but to me, it's the reason that this program exists. And that's how has working in the field of psychic mediumship changed your perspective?
Wow, coming off a great intro into one of the best questions ever. Okay, so much has changed. You know, for many of us who are stepping in the world of psychic and mediumship, most of the times we've had it as a child as well. The thing it brought most to me is that I have the comfort of knowing I'm not alone. And I have the comfort of knowing that life continues even beyond our physical death.
Yes.
And I know with a lot of my friends, just in those two elements alone, those fears can really paralyze somebody. And so having a good relationship with it and having no doubt with it has really kind of just set it free.
Oh, that's beautiful and also true. And I think the fact that you work in the field at the depth that you do, you really know those things, that life does continue. And
yes.
Yeah, I know you've moved on to other projects, but I know one of your projects was working with a project channeling Eric.
Oh, yes. The Eric Meadows.
Eric, yes. I'm just curious, how did you and his mom meet?
Gosh, like most projects, it's word of mouth. And there was a wonderful client of mine, Steve Trask, who met Elisa online, saw what she was starting, and said, "Hey, you need to meet Jamie." And like my sessions, she booked, and it was a cold reading. I remember the first time we met, I was extremely uneasy with the situation, though most of my mediumship skills are clairvoyant and clairaudient. So I see spirit and I hear them. I don't necessarily feel them so much, though as I'm getting older, I'm getting more of this. And I've always been engaged in sessions that were more enlightened, safe feeling, no cussing, not a lot of aggression. And this young, and he is handsome and sweet looking. And he showed up, and I thought, oh, this is very nice. And what came out of his mouth was all about bipolar and how he felt and how he took his own life.
Yeah.
To his own mother, and his language was not the language I would use with my mother.
No,
So
he
I was,
totally has a potty mouth.
ooh, yes, sailor boy.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable. And I'm like, this is not what happens in readings. Like, I had this understanding that you're in spirit, you know better,
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and he was like, what? You're a translator, you know better. He changed my perspective on what it was to communicate to somebody who passed over, who still is holding on to that human character and showing us who they are through that, like teaching us. And he was like, it's the intent of the word, Jamie. It's not really what the word means. It's the intent.
Yeah, we learn from the spirits that we channel. And I also kind of think that sort of like we choose our parents here on the physical plane, that somehow spirits guide their people to the mediums or psychics that could best assist them, maybe. You really have your many YouTubes, and it's so obvious that you have just a crystal clear connection with
Yeah, there are, and I'm sure you've come across this. There are some sessions where the spirit, like Eric, is so clear you can't shake it. It's almost an eerie feeling.
Yeah, there's some that are clear, and that's true here. We have better listeners and we have receivers, and then we have better communicators. It's sometimes rare to find someone on this side that's both good at receiving and sending energy, and then how much more exciting to find someone on the other side that does as well.
That does as well, yes. And so it was a hard time to recognize that, I wanted to move my career more towards my personal passion, which is teaching.
Yay, sister.
I love it so much. Like, I have this vision of, I'm like the kindergarten teacher of learning your sixth sense. And my greatest joy is walking around and just waking up people just ever so slightly, get up. You're going to be intuitive now. Wake up.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Yeah, I think of it as sort of reawakening them, sort of like that veil that falls on us when we come, for most of us, when we come into the physical world.
Yes.
Life, kind of drives our gifts underground, and it's just such a process of rediscovery to find your own gifts, and then to be able to translate that sort of like, hey, psst, over this way,
Yes.
for other people,
And I remember talking to Eric about it, and he's so supportive, even though he's the biggest prankster. If any of the listeners are like, oh yeah, I would like to be pranked by his spirit, go check out his website, which is channelingeric.com, and that's Eric with a K. And just start from the beginning of the archives, because that kid follows through.
He's a handful. He's really a handful, but sort of like I call them joy guides or gatekeepers, the children guides that we have. They kind of appear silly, but they actually guide us to profound wisdom. And I think laughter opens our vibration up so that we can absorb those deeper truths.
Oh, I wish I was in front of you. I'd give you the biggest hug.
Oh, I knew we were similar in vibration, but you're much more recognized than I am. So just anyway. What are the takeaways from Eric? What did you? Obviously, it was an introduction into and it became really a huge work because his mom published a book based on your channel.
Two. She
Two of
did
them.
two. Yes, and I hope she does more. She really is an amazing driving force and a voice for, many grieving parents on how do we manage this new relationship that we have.
Yeah, I wanted to say that one thing I noticed, she's very like the perfect skeptic in the sense that she's not closed to an answer, but she's going to probe. And I know with me, as I developed and as I continue to develop, my clients become my teachers because they ask questions that I would never have thought to try to feel out the answers for.
Yes.
And it just seems like she really provided, like you said, the driving force.
Yes, she was really the one to put everything together and put it out there. Through the books and building the relationship with her, and she had so many more ideas, I recognized that I wasn't going to be enough for the channeling Eric growth and that my passion was teaching.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning before, Eric is such a huge support, even though he's a big prankster and he's silly and he's very straightforward. He was the first to remind me that I had to do what I was wanting to do, that I wanted to manifest.
Yeah.
And that's when you really got someone wonderful.
I was going to say one of the things that she seemed to be moving toward was sort of using him as an intermediary. I differentiate angels because they work with our high soul or etheric will from our guides, which work with more our material world and our spiritual experience here, from spirits, which I consider facilitators, not really guides per se.
Yeah.
It's just my own word for it, it's facilitators. And so he proved to be a phenomenal facilitator to meet some amazing higher vibrational energies. You and I both had an experience of meeting Jesus. And when I say that, I always feel a little awkward because I don't mean it in accepting Jesus Christ as your personal savior kind of thing, but literally meeting him. In my case, he appeared to me in the 1980s. I was in my 20s and he physically appeared in my home. And I've talked about that on other shows, but in your case, he came through in a channeling session, and I listened to that last night, just another one of the shows that I wanted to listen to before I got to speak to you personally, and I could tell the impact that it was having on you. You've channeled him, you've channeled the Buddha, you've channeled Mother Earth, lots of others. Give us kind of what you got from that.
It was interesting because none of those people were ever on my hit list to talk to. And, Tracy, I bet you get this a lot too. People go, oh, you communicate to spirit. Oh, have you ever talked to Elvis or JFK or Marilyn Monroe? And they have this hit list, that they would love to.
Yes. I have a 7-year-old who likes to talk to Prince, and he's definitely, I have nothing against Prince, but he was not the first person I would have reached out across the ethers for.
Right. I confess I tried a handful of times to get a hold of Elvis because I just love him. But it was never really provided for me. And I have this sense of awareness. If it's a struggle, then maybe I'm going down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Energetically, there's an ease to it, which reminds me that I'm going forward motion and it's good. And Eric brought that ease when his mom would give a list of, all right, today we're going to talk to Jesus. And I'm like, oh my God, we're what?
Yeah.
Who are we going to interview? And she's like, Jesus. And I'm like, oh crap. I immediately get nervous and I'm like, okay, got to get out of your own way, Jamie. So that requires a big discipline. Eric always calls it to be on the fence, to be neutral.
I like that phrase.
And that is, seriously a hard place to stay when you're communicating to Jesus because you got your own agenda and your own ideas about it. And I'm just trying to get them all away. And Eric had this sense of being the to-go boy. He would just find the spirits and bring them in with such ease and enjoy the space. And I remember when Jesus's energy came into the room, I had a hard time breathing. I didn't know really what to respond. I even think I started to cry. I had to ask him to back up, to get away. shoo.
Yeah, move his energy back. Yeah, good technique, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't know what else to do, Tracy. I was
It
like,
is intense. It's
you know,
intense. I was gobsmacked. I didn't know what to do.
there's
I,
not many days you find yourself in that kind of situation.
right, right.
And so
No.
then, yeah, my brain goes, all right, you're nutty, Jamie. You're crazy. Like we already knew it, but
Yeah, but you know you're in the presence of an ascended master. The vibration is so phenomenal.
right. It's like our bodies don't handle it well.
No, but
Physical.
I noticed that you talked about creative laughter, that Jesus had demonstrated that aspect of his character.
Yes.
That's the thing that struck me, is that phenomenal sense of well-being. Like, how could you possibly think that things would not work out in your life? And then also the Buddha and Mother Earth. These are some heavy hitters in the energy world. Tell us a little bit of juicy nuggets.
Yeah, and she also had Moses.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh, awesome.
Yes,
I
and
met Moses, but in a different setting there. Yeah.
Elisa, the mother of Eric, had this whole list that she wanted to go through, and she picked a set amount of questions to ask each spirit. And I thought it was great that she came up with this question. And I think you can still see all these interviews on his YouTube channel of what life did you have, or what other incarnation did you have that fed the lessons of this life?
Mm-hmm.
What's the closest parallel? I
It's
was
a
like,
very interesting question.
yeah.
And it took a great deal of mastery of channeling or mediumship to be able to be that neutral when you heard the answers.
Yeah, because a lot of them, my human head was like, oh, get real. It just wanted to laugh a little because it was immature. It couldn't understand what it was listening to.
Right.
Because some of them were insects and animals.
Yes.
And it just, I remember there were days where we would hang up from each other and the interview was over and I would just sit there bewildered. What just went down?
Yeah.
And how beautiful it was. And
Yes.
I think Eric brought to the table not only the connection to these entities that are in different dimensional planes and gave us the possibility of doing these interviews, but also the concept that, you know what, people, it's available. This is available. It's not trapped in a book and you're illiterate and you have to study to get to it. He made it to where this energy that is around us, that's made up of all that is digestible. And I think that's why he kept that language. And, he stayed present on all the interviews. You mentioned Buddha. That one, I haven't studied much on Buddhist lifestyle or living. And after that interview, it really made me want to read. He provided me with doors that I wouldn't have looked into because I didn't know to.
Yeah.
I found out early on in this career, Tracy, that the more I read about it, the less I knew.
I was
the
just
more
thinking
doubt.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. We do. It's like, okay, I thought I had that kind of tied down because that's completely out the window now.
Gone. Yeah, and so I had to re-gauge this. Okay, so maybe it's not about reading, and I got into doing. And that's what I love with my teaching, is that I get hands-on with people.
Yes.
And I try to give them an experience to have, because it's the experience of it that gets you to build a relationship with it, that gets you to build trust with being psychic, a medium, a clairvoyant, clairsentient, whatever your abilities are. And it's not so much the reading of it, but the experience of it solidifies it for you, and you can define it the way that you need to and label it the way that you need to.
Exactly. And I think too, we think about teaching from a left brain analytical standpoint, okay, these are the things you need to learn. But when you and I are teaching, or anyone is teaching things that are the right brain, I think that we teach them energetically too. I think they learn I know I learned that way. I had an opportunity to go to Arthur Findlay College,
Hey.
England, for just 3 classes. I was there for about a month, and it was amazing. But I learned as much from the energy of how it was done as I did from anything verbal. And I'm sure that you convey that because you have such a good connection with the other side. So that comes through you. You're a channel
Yes.
in much more ways than just a verbal.
That's a good way of saying it, yes. But I have to say, I listened to your intro with your describing what your classes are, and I so appreciate that you are doing the business side of the spiritual career.
Thank you.
That's hands down phenomenal. Thank you.
Well, I will tell you that I became a realtor at one point, and I didn't know how to write a contract after I passed all my exams because they don't teach you. And then I became an ordained minister, and I had a funeral that someone asked me to do a week after I became a minister. And I had never written a funeral originally or never written an original wedding. And so I decided when I taught that I was going to make sure they had had as much practice as humanly possible so that they had an opportunities to ask questions in the midst of that process so that they don't graduate with a certificate and go, but I don't know what I'm doing,
Oh my God.
like I felt before. So.
Wow. Listeners, that is so valuable. So valuable.
Well, and you teach, mine is a 14-week program, and it's designed to fill the gaps in and give a ton of practice, but it is how-to. But I noticed your programs, you have levels that you offer, like you have an introductory and a middle level and an advanced level of mediumship. Tell us first about the center and then some of the things that you do offer through that, and the tangential association with your new Vimeo project.
Oh my God. Wonderful. Yes, the Center for Love and Light, I designed that back in 2001 when there really wasn't much space for people of spiritual like-minded communities to come and rent or to do readings. We here in Atlanta would have to end up in a basement of a church or some rundown event space in the back or spend a ton of money at a hotel.
Yeah.
And the center was providing a clean, streamlined experience, so you could make it what you needed to. And we provide all your necessary equipment that you would need to have an event or throw a party. And from that came a space for me to teach my classes, which is really what I needed, and it has grown, allowing people to come in worldwide. And we have book tours and meditations every week. We even on Sundays have spiritual kung fu.
Oh, cool.
I know, it's so awesome.
I love the fun language. You have some awesome things. I know I heard you mention like a spiritual swag bag.
Yes.
What's spiritual kung fu? Tell us about that.
It's a local gentleman that our nonprofit, actually the Love and Light Institute, sponsors him to come every Sunday. He aligns your energy as you're practicing Kung Fu, and it is family friendly. You can come with your husband, your wife, your spouse, your kids, your grandmother. Yes, we love bringing full families in. It's not just about the development of you, it's the development of you and who you are in relationship to the people around you as well.
Absolutely.
We love our institute. We do a lot of what we call give backs, where there are classes from instructors, generally in the Southern Belt here where we are, with low ticket prices like $10 or $5.
Wow.
And it's anywhere from spiritual mindfulness to physical wellness to consciousness emotion, and even into spiritual training. So I'm doing a class February 9th about, is it my imagination or my intuition? Helping people understand the difference between the two.
Very interesting dichotomy, yes.
Now back to our show, from a medium's perspective, with host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Welcome back. We have a guest with us today, Jamie Butler, and we'll be back with her in just a minute. If you would be interested in scheduling a private reading, with either of us, or some psychic or mediumship tutoring with either of us, or if you'd be interested in a professional psychic mediumship certification, I know I offer that. I'm not sure if Jamie does or not, but you can visit her website at jamiebutlermedium.com, and you can visit my website at mediumtracylockwood.com. If you missed the first half of the show and you'd like to listen to it, or you'd like to listen to other episodes that we've done, we have a weekly program. I've been doing this a couple of years, so our YouTube channel is filling up. So look for us on YouTube and please subscribe while you're there. Jamie, welcome back.
Hi.
You were talking to us about the center that you've developed for light and love in Atlanta, Georgia. Let's take it from there and telling them about the lighter side. What is that project?
Yes. My video cast that I've been doing for a year is now expanding to be a network. So we have the Lighter Side Network.
Oh,
and
wow.
We have 4 different shows, and they're similar to a podcast, but they are video casts. So though we're much like a TV show, what we're focused on is getting the information to the listeners. And we have myself, Darshna Patel, Ursula Lentini, and Laura Boone coming on to the network. And we cover everything from astrology, tarot, how-to, channeling spirits. We even do live streaming episodes on Facebook and take our listeners' questions live and give responses. It has just been a blast. And our first episode is up March 1st of this year. And I'm so excited.
Exciting. Very good. Oh, that's
Yes.
so cool.
Yeah, so you can find us on Vimeo on demand, The Lighter Side, or you can also find us on thelightersidenetwork.com.
Thank you so much. That sounds like a fantastic programming, and I'm sure our listeners would enjoy them as well. So thank you for sharing that.
The show title is The Lighter Side, and my tagline, which I like to teach from, is "It's not woo-woo, it's true."
Ooh, I
Right?
like that. Yes, it's not
Like-
woo-woo, but it's true. I like that. That's very
Yeah, let's come away from the woo-woo and the unusual and the weird and the odd and coincidence, and let's call it what it really is.
Yes,
There's truth
yes.
to it.
Oh, absolutely. And I love your title that you gave yourself, the everyday medium. I like that too, because we share the belief that all people can be mediums or are mediums naturally,
Yes.
and psychic as well. I think earlier tutelage sort of restricted it to like everyone's psychic, but not everybody's a medium, like it's some special thing. And it is special when you develop it, but it's not limited to anyone. I think anyone can develop that if they have an interest.
I completely support that as well. That's like learning how to play an instrument. I believe we can all play the instrument, but to the level of degree and how much practice you put into it, or connection, understanding of it, is how well you play the instrument. It's the same with our physical bodies. Yeah, so I'm going over a year now onto my show, and we do everything from channeling spirit. I channel Grace and Maitland and an entity called Psy and another one, Jolly.
Nice.
And I trance channel. And then I also bring in people and I interview them. We just interviewed a lawyer, an attorney, and discussing how do you hold your boundaries and your energy when you're in a high stress situation like a divorce or custody claim. And so we find people out in the everyday world that have the extraordinary ability of paying attention to their energetic body.
Yeah.
And we get to know, how are they doing that? And how do they make it look so easy?
Very cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have the definition that being spiritual or being connected to energy is much more like a discipline. But I feel that, when we put our right foot in front of our left foot and we're walking forward, that's not really a discipline. It's more of a habit. It's something that we already innately have learned and know. And I believe our connection to energy or spirituality, faith, belief, however you would like to label it, is something that's just as natural, kind of like what we were mentioning before.
I fully agree with you.
I do a lot of show and tell on the show,
Oh, cool.
guided meditation bonuses, And, we talk about your chakras and energy and how you can use them to energize or to vibrational match to what you're trying to manifest or create or what you want to align yourself with. And, so I have a lot of, I call them techniques or even fooleries, to fool your mind into doing the work easily.
Yeah, that shift, you were talking earlier about the difference between imagination and intuition.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of think imagination is the doorway to intuition.
Yes.
If you'll use your imagination and just let it flow, because you're in that subconscious between state of perception, daydreamy, oh, I see clouds, it looks like a dragon. Letting your mind do that we find through that process that it's bits of our subconscious trying to surface. Do you feel comfortable to dichotomize?
Oh, let's go. Yes. I would ring that bell. Ding, 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 right behind you. I like to teach that intuition and imagination, they're roommates.
Oh, I like that.
They live in the same room. In fact, they probably share bunk beds. They're so close.
Yes.
And that the big difference that we have here is that our imagination requires our focus. It requires our attention to thrive and grow and live. So if I were to ask you and your listeners to pause for a second and think about a red rocking chair, go ahead and create it in your mind, use your imagination. And I'm going to ask you, since you've created it, you would obviously know, is it an adult rocking chair or a kid's rocking chair? Is it wooden? Is it plastic? Is it red glossy, red matte? Like, you would know these things because you created it. And you would be able to answer that without any doubt. So if you can point to where that red rocking chair is, some people go far out in front of their head. Some people put their finger to their forehead. I've had some people put their finger to their chest. It doesn't matter, just as long as you can identify where it is, because that's going to be the same location where your intuition is coming in.
Yes, yes.
Right? And your intuition doesn't require your attention. And in fact, just like you said, Tracy, it doesn't require your belief. It doesn't require you to think about it. It just arrives. So sometimes when intuition is happening, it's so easy we overlook it. And then when it's big, our brain goes, oh, wait. We don't know where that's coming from.
I probably looked that up.
The logic comes in.
Right.
We don't have the source of that, so we don't know if we can believe in that right now.
Right.
And
yes.
Right? And then if we recognize that, wait a second, we're reacting to this thought as a surprise, or that it's something different. And I say to you, if you're having any form of reacting to it, then it wasn't yours to begin with. It was given to you, transmitted to you.
Yeah. Imagination could go the opposite direction into fantasy, where you're forcing a storyline or forcing something versus allowing.
Right, because that forcing bit would require your energy input, your focus, your creation to keep it alive.
Yeah, resisting or pushing.
And boy, that intuition doesn't. I mean, you're managing it. It's just showing up and you're reacting, going, oh my God, look, that's crazy. Where do I put that? Oh, that's a great piece. Like, whoa.
Speaking of sort of random bits of information that tie together when you're giving a reading, can you think of an example where something seemed just unconnected and ended up being the proof that that person needed?
Oh my God, I can think of dozens.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The one that was a huge pivotal change in my career, I was 27 and I was a massage therapist, and I was doing readings on the phone on the side for a little added income. But it was something I had decided at that point that I wasn't going to pursue because it was too strange, and I was tired of getting labeled and people not understanding me, and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
So I gave up, unfortunately.
Aww.
So here and there, I was in this reading, and this woman's voice was so young, like early 20s. And I have her name and her phone number, so I'm meditating on that. She calls me, and this man shows up, and he says, I'm her father. And like a smartass that I am, I said, no, you're not. And he said, yes, I am. And I said, no, she's too young to have a father pass away. Like, I wasn't going to accept it. And he said, I'm her father. And he spelled it out to me, Father. And I was like, fine. I told the young lady, I have your father here. And she said, yes. And I said, he described how he died, which was this strange stomach ulcer that had a bleed out.
Yeah, very
And
specific. Yeah.
really specific, unusual. And she said, yes, that's what happened. She was maybe 3 or 4 when he passed away.
Wow.
And he began to explain all the beautiful moments in her life, even her first ballet recital, what she wore, her graduation, her school colors, everything. I was shocked. I was amazed.
It's so beautiful.
And then at the end, you could hear her hesitation. Like she had this moment of, this is so surreal that I'm ready to throw it all away if you can't tell me this. And she says to me, Jamie, I have one memory of my father, only one. Can you tell me what it is? I put the phone to my chest and I'm freaking out. This is the reason why I wanted to quit this to begin with. The pressure's too much.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in charge of this woman's connection. I made an announcement kind of out loud and I said, if I'm supposed to do this for the rest of my life, you better give this to me. And I was like, and if you want me to do this work, you make this easy for me because I can't do this.
Yeah.
I'm just crying thinking about it. It was so hard. And
yes,
so the
because
father,
you want to please your client. You want to give them the right answers. They're in pain. You want to help with that, but
and so many people have already set you up to be a scam or to take their money or to, there's so much language here in the United States about the kind of work we do that it's not genuine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's far from where we are. We're very genuine. So the father says, don't worry, Jamie, I'm going to show you. I was in the backyard. She comes through the sliding glass doors. The grass isn't cut very well. It's a little tall. She runs to me. I pick her up and I hold her over my head and I spin in circles with her.
Aww.
And so I explain it to her and there's silence. And I'm thinking, that's it. Little did I know she was trying not to show me she was crying.
Yes.
And she goes, Jamie, the only difference is that I had a lollipop in my mouth.
Oh.
That's the only memory I have of my father. And I said, well, I'm here to tell you that he's here now. And I hope you create many more memories with him.
Yeah.
This relationship doesn't end when we leave our bodies.
No, it doesn't. Yes, yes.
It encourages us to have a new relationship. And it's just, we're lucky now that we have more language than ever about how this happens or how we can do this.
Yes. For our listeners, it's really much easier for us as mediums to respond to a genuine need than it is for us to go through some kind of torturous testing. So I don't even allow people to force questions. I could not care less whether they believe in me. What I want are people that come to me that are sincerely needing answers, that helping them find closure. Like, it's a service. It's from the heart that we do this. And testing someone, I've had someone where I was bringing through their mother for over a half an hour and very evidential stuff. And she tossed a question like that at me, and I was a chicken. I hit a block. It was like a resistance. And I said, I think I've already given you proof. Because there is that thing, like, there's not enough proof for those that choose not to believe, and
yes,
is needed for those that do. And we don't expect people to be like, oh yes, anything they say is fine. It should resonate with you. And we assume, I know, Jamie, you do this with your clients too, we assume you're psychic and that you also have mediumship skills. So for us to try to bullshit you would be just
insane,
stupid. Like,
yes.
I think you can tell the difference between someone that's a genuine light and someone who's really trying to make a difference in someone else's life in a very sincere way versus someone that's using it as a power or ego thing by the way you feel when you leave the reading. If you leave the reading and you feel peace and you feel understanding and closure and your answers have been given to you and it's a beautiful thing, it was a good one. And if you leave afraid and dependent on the reader and they've instilled some kind of confusion or terror in you, don't go back to them. Go to somebody that's full of light, like Jamie or others out there that are bright, shining, beautiful.
Yes, I agree.
Jamie, we have just a few minutes before our uncertain end of the hour time.
No, it's going by too fast.
I know I could talk to you for days, but I wondered if you had some exercise or concepts that would be helpful for people that are deeply serious about deepening their skills. Are there some or one that feels particularly effective? I mean, I know there are many, because I have many too. But what pops in your mind as a great thing to share with them?
That is a great question. I'm going to go a little basic, even though we have very much advanced listeners. There's a lot of us, and I find this in my students in all levels, the basic, intermediate, advanced, that they want to be seers. They want to see that energy. They want to see it with their eyeballs, exterior, away from them. They're great empathics. Like that's their number one way of doing a session and connecting to the information within energy. But they still have that goal of, I want to see it. Mm-hmm. So I do this little exercise with them, and it's been very effective. So first of all, have you heard of the Magic Eye books?
I have not. Writing it down right now.
Magic Eye. Go get them, listeners. You can find them on Amazon. Love that place. Anything Enterprises is the production house that makes the books. And they are the computer-generated images. They look like blobs of color. They're not really a piece of artwork until you stare at them, you focus your eyes, allow them to unfocus, and a 3D image pops out of the paper.
Oh, I've heard of this type of thing. Yeah.
So this is the closest eye technique that allows you to practice staying focused, but still glazing over. And when you apply the same technique for the magic eye around a person, like say you're at church, or my favorite place, I know this sounds very odd, but the meat section at any grocery store. Seriously,
okay, that's very specific. Okay.
It is. You know, because they have the best lighting. It's all that terrible fluorescent lighting, and fluorescent lighting flickers, and it flickers so fast that our eyes, we can't identify it, but our eyes adjust constantly to keep the light coming in a consistent way as the light flickers. So that tires our eyeballs out pretty quick, which is great because we need to slightly not care and be a little tired for magic to happen this way. And people stay still long enough in the meat section because they want to pick the right cut of whatever they're shopping for. And you can catch their energy, their aura field, their energetic field shining off of them by using this magic eye technique. So you would pick somewhere between the ear and the shoulder or elbow and the waist, somewhere where you're getting body parts on kind of either side. Stare at that space, not at the person, not at the meat, but at the space a few inches off their body. Focus your eyes and allow it to glaze over, and voila, you'll start seeing gas fumes. Maybe it won't come with color right away, but then the more you practice and connect to it, you'll see blobs of color, shines of color, and then you can get into the more in-depth of what does the color mean, how is it shining, and what does that mean, what's the texture, and what does that mean, because that gives you so much information about the person you're looking at. It's like a cheat sheet.
That's beautiful. I love both those techniques. Those are fabulous. We are at the end of the hour, apparently. I'm hearing the music come in gently from the other side of the radio show here. Jamie, an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, listeners. Have a beautiful day.
All right. And remember, listeners, it's never inappropriate to be kind. And without integrity, you have nothing. See you next week.